Hello, everyone. Welcome to this webinar where Ali and I will be doing a deep dive on everything that we've learned and felt and observed coming out of Cannes Lions this year. So thank you so much for joining us. This is going to be a really interesting conversation. My name's Amy. I'm the founder and CEO of Goodloop. Goodloop is a responsible media platform that helps brands take the good that they're already doing and turn it into media activations that drive higher performance, higher retention, and help them quantify the value of the good they do. When you turn social impact into media activations, you turn it into ROAS. And you can see the uplift that it gives in terms of attention, in terms of engagement, and ultimately in terms of effectiveness. So I'm really proud of our work, and I always find Cannes such an amazing and uplifting way to be reminded of what's best about our industry, most inspiring, most culture changing, and most influential. And it gives me hope. So I hope that on this session we will share some of that magic with you all, whether you were there on the Palais or whether you were stuck at home on your desk. This is a way to bring some of that magic back to the industry and make it more accessible. And speaking of accessibility, I want to introduce Ali Hanan, who is the champion of diversity, inclusion, and accessibility across our industry. Ali, do you want to give a brief intro before we kick off?
Yeah, it's such an honor and a pleasure to be on this webinar with you, Amy, because we're both so passionate about this space. And I think the interesting thing that we've both been hearing is this retreat and that purpose is nonsense, etc. But the data says differently. So when you look at the Cannes Lion body of work, it is so inspiring this year, actually, from that point of view. And so I am the CEO and founder of Creative Equals. We deliver what we call the new ROI, the return on inclusion. We think about how you can drive that right throughout the marketing value chain, right? Thinking about everything from innovation to brand to marketing to comms and even out into your supply chains. So really thinking about how that is the fuel underneath everything that you do and how that can unlock growth. Most importantly, in 2026, hard to find in such a disrupted marketplace, but also how you can really drive social impact. And what we see across the winners this year, well, we're going to dig into that, but I can't wait to reveal all on the call.
Uh,
Over to you.
before we kick off, what's your favorite little secret hack about Cannes? What's like a space you find really inspiring or a place that perhaps nobody knows that you would recommend people check out?
Oh, that's a great question. This year, what I found is on the Fringe Festival, everyone was talking about AI and creators, and they
Mhm.
seem to often forget that there is the basement within the Palais. I know it's a privilege to have a pass, but actually, one of my favorite places is to go down to the basement where all the work is on the
Mm.
walls. And somebody said to me on the Quasit, "Oh, there's no inclusion at Cannes this year. It's we've done that topic like it's the metaverse or something." I'm like. But anyway, so it's like I walked down to the basement and looked around, and inclusion, sustainability, purpose-driven work, human rights work, it's all in the basement. So I spend a lot of time just hanging out there with the work and photographing it. And if you go back to my LinkedIn feed, you'll see some of the work that I've been posting about actually. So it's one of the kind of best kept secrets, I guess, at Cannes, I think. Yeah.
The
What about
work.
yeah, the work. Yeah, who knew?
Yeah,
What
turns
about
out.
what about you?
Well, actually, I mean, that's it. It's like that's why I was so excited to do this webinar, right? Is to bring the work, not the AI
Yeah.
industry spiel, the actual work, the award-winning creative work that is inspiring the next generation of creatives. And that
Mm.
is something that is so easily missed in the busyness and craziness of the quartet. So I actually love that answer. I completely agree. Like, get down to that basement and go look at the work. And
Yeah.
I
What
wanted to
about
level
you?
set a little bit before we
Mm.
start, and just for anyone that isn't familiar with CAM, which is probably most people, right? It is a huge privilege to go. It's not something everyone's necessarily going to get access to. And so I just wanted to like set the tone a little bit. So Cannes is an international festival of advertising and creativity. It brings together 1,300 delegates across 350 brands and over 500 agencies. So it
Mm.
truly does represent, a big swathe of the senior leadership within our industry. And then, of course, there's Young Lions, which brings some of the new up and coming emerging creative talent to the Creative Festival as well. And the other stat I really love is 97 countries represented. So this is a truly international picture. And you'll see that in the work as well that we're going to share. It really does span the globe. So you can get a sense of how culture is shaping conversation in different markets, which helps us burst some of our own bubbles, perhaps. So the way that Ali and I have structured this is we're going to start by going down to the basement. We're going to start by looking at the work. And so grab some popcorn, like sit back, enjoy, just let it wash over you and sink in. We're going to watch some case study videos just for the first 10 minutes or so, reflect on some of the things that really jumped out, and then we'll transition this webinar into a conversation where Ali's going to share some of the data and some of the insight that Creative Equals has obtained looking at the work in aggregate. Sound good?
Yeah,
Anything you want to share, Ali, before we go?
No, let's go. That sounds, although you didn't tell us before we go ahead, your favorite place at Cannes Lion.
Oh no, okay. I always find the FQ Lounge, the female quotient, to be one of the most welcoming spaces. I mean, they just do such a fantastic job creating. It's free to access, so it is part of the Fringe Festival. It has so many different types of people, jobs, roles, perspectives. I mean, it's one of the spaces that is most diverse and therefore most wonderful to be in at the festival. So yeah, I always make time to go to the FQ Lounge.
Yeah, agree,
That's mine.
agree.
As well as just a quick dip in the sea. You have to go in the sea at some point.
Yeah.
All right, let's kick off.
I have a wide foot up top and a very narrow heel.
Well, in Chris's case, when he first started, he would have blisters everywhere. His toes were all banged up.
In the marathon, I had pain.
Nobody in the world makes shoes for our kids.
If we're not doing it as one of the biggest sporting companies in the world, who else is going to do it?
Adidas just came out with their first performance running shoe designed
with Down syndrome athletes. Adidas has been working on the shoes for 3 years. The benefits transcending just the physical.
So today, we're about to go to Adidas headquarters, meet the product team.
So when the agency brought us the idea, it was an eye-opener.
Our product team is working with the athletes with disability to say, what do you need?
My heel always comes out of the shoe.
I need more room in the front,
so it will fit my feet better.
They suffer from overpronation and stability issues.
So how do you put the stability in?
We included a gusseted tongue, which adds midfoot support.
Having shoes that fit me, make me happy.
Wow, that's perfect.
That's painful.
You're going to see a whole revolution, hundreds of millions out running.
Oh, that's cool. Oh, it's amazing.
There's many needs around the world in different groups that we can actually cater for. Sports is the best thing, and it should be available for every people.
Yeah, what a powerful piece of work. Yeah.
A really beautiful case study to kick us off. And how we structured this is just at the end of each case study, pull out a key stat or key success from the story that just helps articulate this duality of where it is good for the world, but also good for the business. And I think, Adidas does a fantastic job of showing that. The shoe is the first, shoe co-designed with the Down syndrome community. So the impact, the social impact and the accessibility inherent in the design is super clear. And also, I think the seriousness with which they take it, right? It's in 29 countries. This isn't something they did once in a small market to get the lion. They've really rolled it out across their global markets. And then the business outcome is that, accessibility drives incremental growth. The stat that I love from their case study is that 42% of purchasers of that shoe were first-time Adidas buyers. For a brand like Adidas that must have, 80-90% household penetration, 100% brand awareness, for them to find incremental customers is a huge achievement. And so to get people to consider their brand from a complete standing start is a great way to think about the business case of accessibility. I love your phrase, Ali, the new ROI. We should have called this section the new ROI.
Yeah, and perhaps it's a good segue to actually build in some of the disability data here. And I also love your point about incremental growth, because the interesting thing about disability is actually 15% of the globe has some kind of a disability. So it's not a niche audience. And of course, as people get older, they often gain a disability. But, the challenge is across the globe, only 4% of our ads actually feature somebody with a disability. Interestingly, though, if you do a deep dive into the whole set of all the Cannes Lion work over the last 5 years, disability is one of the main inclusion points within the body of work. In fact, there are 131 Lions that have been awarded over the last 5 years to work with a disability. And yeah, and I think it's just brilliant. I know, that's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think this is an incredible step for Adidas, because of course, it's recognizing that, the shoes that people's feet are so different. It, comes down to, it makes me think also of people with bunions, and, where else can they take this sort of idea and concept, and how can they scale this, how can they scale all their work. But yeah, I think I just wanted to drop in some of the the facts about disability, and also just to really understand and know that when you design inclusion first, you design for growth, and and often from those margins.
Yeah.
Should we look at the next piece?
That's fascinating as well. That the disconnect between the number of people in society that have a disability versus the representation of it in our advertising more broadly, and that disconnect between the amount of work at Cannes Lions at the peak of our industry, 131 Lions have been awarded, versus such small representation in the mass media. It's a really interesting disconnect there. Hopefully.
Yeah, and a missed opportunity, you could say as well. Like huge missed opportunity. Anyway.
I think that's going to be the theme of today. It's all the missed opportunities.
Exactly.
All right, let's go for the next one.
Begin. Poreless. Wrinkle erasing. Secret. Fat freezing.
Eternal youth.
Precious.
Beauty.
Periodic fable. What an incredible piece of creative. And looking at the good for the world and good for the business lens that we can apply to this, I think the good for the world piece is really profound. As someone that has bought every single Sephora potion that I can buy, the amount of anxieties the beauty industry creates in me as a consumer, and the amount of unverifiable claims, especially in the American consumer market for beauty. There's such little protection for consumers here. There's so many skincare products that have ingredients in that you aren't allowed to sell in Europe. So that's something I'm very aware of. I found this I mean, I found this ad speak directly to me. And so their marketing literacy as consumer empowerment message is phenomenal, right? Like, stop being lied to, know when these claims are falsified or are impossible to validate, and just marketing speak. 49 beauty marketing buzzwords that they debunked as part of this campaign. And, you know, a generation of people coming up and thinking that their skin isn't young enough. You know, we hear of kids as young as 10 buying skincare products, and all of that world just absolutely terrifies me. So this campaign really spoke to me. And then on the business case, I mean, the stats on this slide speak for themselves. That new RI piece is really clear. Transparency to build consideration, right? Transparency as a brand. They are radically transparent, The Ordinary. It's always been part of their brand values. And so by using that to build trust, you can see a 5 times increase in followers, 11 times increase in web traffic, and then ultimately driving that purchase intent increase so that you're seeing that sort of trickle down from top of funnel all the way through to bottom line sales. Do you have any thoughts, Ali, on how this campaign landed for you?
Yeah, I think it's an incredibly impactful, powerful campaign. Of course, it won the Grand Prix for health and wellness. There was another piece of work in the basement that that I thought was really fascinating. It didn't win anything, but it was shortlisted. And I think to your point about you know, the other part of the beauty industry, there was a piece by, it's called Grupo Boticario. I'm not probably saying that correctly, but it's from Brazil. And actually they acknowledge that a lot of skincare does get sold to girls as low as from the age of 8 to 14. A lot of young girls are going in to buy retinol and anti-aging products. And so they went out with a campaign which was for adult skin only, and which they took out to their creator community. And I thought that was an incredibly powerful piece of work that would actually go so well alongside this piece of work, actually, because actually thinking about who does end up buying, to your point, skin products, obviously, inadvertently young girls are being targeted with this message from a very young age, which I think is a systemic challenge with the beauty sector. So that was a brilliant piece of work, but yeah, it didn't win anything, but I thought it was quite impactful.
That's lovely to call out some of the work that doesn't win, because I mean, as someone that didn't get to go to the basement, it's hard to keep track of that amazing work that makes it through to a Cannes Lions submission. So it's worth our time and attention, but isn't in the top 5 that gets the headlines. So thanks for calling that out. We'll make a note and maybe we'll add a link to it before we send these docs around to anyone that wants to see them.
Yeah, that's a good build. Yeah.
All right, moving on.
By 2035, climate change could make 10% of Australian homes uninsurable. So for several years, insurance company Suncorp has led an industry shift from focusing on recovery to resilience.
We have to start focusing on how we can make our homes more resilient to weather events before they happen.
In 2021, we proved resilience was possible with one house.
A home so resilient it can withstand fire, floods and cyclones.
Next, we demonstrated it was scalable by applying the learnings to one street.
We're here on Resilience Road.
And now years of research has been combined with Suncorp's own proprietary data to create Suncorp Haven, a digital platform that brings resilience to one whole country, even competitors' customers.
We're the first insurer to openly share our data. It's a brave step and one we are really proud of.
Suncorp Haven enables every one of Australia's 11 million homeowners to simply type in their address and hear from their own home.
G'day, it's me, your home. It's good to finally chat.
About exactly what it needs to be more resilient to the specific threats it faces. Whether it's bushfire,
consider installing mesh screens,
storms, or flood. Haven combines 12 massive data sets to give a detailed picture of every home, making each experience completely unique and immersive.
An Australian-first initiative that's launched today, it's a Suncorp offering called Haven.
A free online tool to help homeowners assess their property's vulnerabilities and strengthen protection.
That's incredible. I mean, that's a fantastic tool for people that are moving into a property if you don't have a clue of environment around them.
You can even get a maintenance schedule around the types of things you should do on an ongoing basis, and it provides you with references to local tradespeople.
If we can all make our homes more resilient, it will reduce the impact these weather events have on our lives and in our communities.
I actually was on the Lions jury the year that One House was submitted. So I think that was 2019. And I remember watching that case study and I remember discussing it in the jury room, and it didn't win. And the reason we didn't put it in any of the metal categories is it felt like a one-off. It felt like a stunt. And so to see Suncorp come back, what would it be, sort of 4 or 5 years later, and have something that has scaled across the street, as they say, but then actually applied to actual consumers' lives, right? Like every home in Australia, even competitor homes, 11 million Australian homes are covered using this tool. It's really amazing to see how the longevity of a story within the Lions sort of body of work can come to fruition, right? It wasn't ready to receive a metal award back in 2019 when I was on the jury. This year it won a titanium. So, you know, it speaks to how you really have to commit and do the hard yards when you come to building social impact into these business models. In terms of the business model, the new ROI, I think that it's very clear. We've got their net promoter score doubled, which is amazing. And they also climbed to number 1 in the home insurance category. So they literally became the top in their category by offering this service. So, you know, the theme for this one really is care as a competitive advantage, a way to differentiate against all those other insurance companies that no one really feels any emotion towards. By caring about your consumers, you increase market share.
I think it is just absolutely fascinating that while we were at Cannes in the middle of like a really full-on heat wave, you know, like it was so hot, that actually the work that won not just any old titanium lion, but the Dan Whedon titanium lion is actually a climate change play or a climate heating play, you know, which I think is just so significant when we think about some of the biggest challenges that we've got across the globe. And I guess one thing, I guess I'll just come in with some of the points, is when you look across all of the 5 titaniums this year, 3 out of 5 of them actually spoke to either sustainability or an inclusion topic. The other 2 that carried a cause was the legacy of Virginia Dufresne. You know, obviously the Epstein files were all about, you know, survivor advocacy and legacy. And the other piece that won was the 600K network, which was, you know, a piece around electoral democracy in Venezuela. And the other 2 pieces were around Oreo cows and Expedition Impossible. So I think to your point, you know, the impressive thing about this piece of work, and I guess why it won, is just the, you know, its impact within, you know, the idea. And like you say, it's taken a long time to get to this, you know, this point, but also, yeah, looking at the results, you know, it absolutely smashed it hands down on what an important topic. And I know actually Suncorp also has the status of being one of Walk's enduring icons as a brand. So, you know, they've been talking about this topic for, you know, a number of years, and it's really taken I think it's really driven that long-term trust and brand equity for them, and, you know, made them very significant on the global creativity stage. Yeah.
Interesting. So a real brand to look to as a leader in taking sustainability and making it a core part of the messaging.
Yeah. Now we probably just have time for one more, don't we, Amy? What do you think?
I think this is our last one. Yes.
Yes, perfect.
Good to go?
Good to go.
Man accused of killing his wife in their own home.
Woman found murdered by her partner at home.
26-year-old woman was killed by her husband inside her home.
Everyone always asks, why does she stay? Why would anyone stay with a man who beats her?
I stayed because I didn't have anywhere to go. I didn't have any money. I didn't have access to any resources.
La problématique, c'est ça. C'est où je vais, avec quel argent.
AXA, the leading insurance company in France, is changing its home insurance policies. In France, home insurance is mandatory by law. Such contracts provide emergency relocation when a home becomes uninhabitable in the event of fire or flood. AXA adds these 3 words, and domestic violence. 3 words to help women escape.
Nous mettons l'expertise d'AXA en matière de relogement au service des femmes victimes de violences conjugales. L'important, c'est de leur donner du temps pour trouver des solutions à long terme.
Once victims call the emergency number, they will be relocated urgently. They will also be provided with psychological and legal assistance. This clause will be included in all 3.5 million AXA home contracts, with retroactive effect.
Je trouve ça extraordinaire qu'une marque comme AXA mette à contribution ce qu'elle sait faire pour aider.
L'hébergement d'urgence, c'est une priorité absolue pour les victimes. Ça permet de sauver des vies.
What a piece to end on. And this won the Effectiveness Grand Prix. So this is a very highly awarded piece of work. They mentioned in the video that all 3.5 million home contracts will be covered, but they also included their business contracts, which means a total of 5.5 million people will receive this coverage of these 3 extra words. And for the first 10 months of the campaign, since it launched, 1,229 women were supported through this clause. So the social impact, the protection that it offers at scale is absolutely undeniable. And then we look at the business case. Well, it's all about consideration and conversion. You know, the 9% uplift in new contracts is a really, really significant number, especially for the leading insurer in a market. So, you know, they are going to already have very, very mass saturation. So a 9% uplift is very, very meaningful. And then that consideration, it increased by 56%. So it just shows that, you know, Ali spoke about trust with Suncorp. I think, you know, it's clearly evident here too. So yeah, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I think interestingly, last year it won the Titanium Grand Prix, and this year it won the effectiveness category. And, you know, why does that matter? Well, actually, from our studies with FEUK and also looking at the Cannes Lion effectiveness pieces of work, over 58% of the entire body of finalists have inclusion at the core of the work, which is obviously measured on 2 measures. One is social impact, and the second is on commercial delivery for the business. But this obviously just smashed it on all fronts. And I guess I'll just, I'm conscious we probably need to wrap, but just thinking about the Grand Prix in total, it turns out this year, 11 out of the 33, so, you know, a third had inclusion, purpose, human rights, you know, at the core of the work. And, you know, when you think about the topics, you know, democracy, disability, domestic violence, racial equity, an amazing piece won the Glass Lion from IDOM about racial equity in medicine, incredible piece of work. Go look at it. We'll drop it in the comments as well. You know, farmers pay, you know, cancer and climate change. These are just, you know, some of the biggest topics, you know, of our time. And that was the work that got awarded. So, you know, I guess that conversation about, you know, is purpose in retreat? Is it nonsense? I think we would both say, well, that is absolute nonsense, because just look at this work. And, you know, I think, you know, and I think also as a sector, you know, as we wake up every day, you know, this kind of work is really what we get up for, isn't it? You know, I certainly do, because it makes a difference commercially, for good, for growth, and, you know, effective, you know, for effectiveness, and it, you know, drives great results. It's
a really good point you make. This won for the creativity last year, and this year it won for effectiveness. You don't win the Effectiveness Grand Prix for just doing good in the world. You win it because it moves the needle for your business. That's what that category is for. And a 58% of FEs to have inclusion in the core of their activation just absolutely speaks to that point. For those that have enjoyed this session and think, oh my God, Ali's talked about all these other amazing case studies, I want more, we're going to send round a little gallery of some of the other pieces of work, because obviously we could talk about this for hours and hours. So anyone that's joined this webinar, we'll send around as a follow-up a little gallery. You can click on the links and watch the case studies in your own time. Some of these we've already referenced, and there's a couple that are coming up in this conversation that we will add before we send it. So there's a little takeaway for anyone that joined. And I just want to end by saying, like, obviously listening to Ali speak about this, everyone can tell you are such an expert on this, and your perspective, looking at the data and looking at what the data teaches us, not these oft heard phrases like purpose is dead, but what's the actual data show us about how businesses are showing up in the world and making a difference and embedding it into their business. So Ali wrote about this recently for Campaign, and we've already touched on some of the amazing stats that the Creative Equal data shows. 3 out of 5 titaniums went beyond a marketing campaign. 11 out of 33 Grand Prix put a social cause at the centre. So, I really encourage everyone, if you're interested in this topic, Creative Equals is a fantastic a fantastic resource to help us see what the data shows us about where the top echelon of our industry is going, and how that then should trickle down into the work that we all do every single day. Ali, is there anything you wanted to close on before we finish up?
And I was going to say straight back at you, Amy, with all of the work you do at Good Loop, and really making sure that that work goes truly to social causes and really drives actual real structural change within communities and business. So yeah, it's just always such a pleasure to hang out with you, and I hope we do more of these. I hope you all enjoyed it today, and here's to doing work that matters.
Here's to doing work that matters. Thanks everyone for joining. And hopefully there'll be more to come.
Thank you. Have a wonderful rest of your day.